Hey guys, this is the Betamax Man here, and I'm gonna do kind of a redo video of that last one I did. Now, people have asked me, hey, please, can you make another video because the other one was so terrible, and it had such bad picture quality, and I couldn't zoom in or anything. That cheap camera I was using because my Sony was broken, and managed to just buy another Sony camera, same one, on eBay for $100, and it worked. It just needed some cosmetic stuff put on it, so I took the parts off of my broken one and put on this one. But this camera, same model, Sony camera, it's really great camera, and this thing will focus in on stuff, and you can see text and all kinds of things. So we're going to redo the video. So I'm actually going to be pulling the power supply out, and I'll pull it apart, and I'll show you how to put in regulator if you've got a bad regulator. Let's get to the back of the power supply. Now there is this little plastic piece that can come out. My goodness, look at that thick dust right there, man. I'm really gonna have to clean this sucker out, and just terrible, man, just terrible dust and debris and shit all over the freaking place. Let's get to the back of it. Now what you can do is, what you want to do is, I recommend taking this back piece off. So there is some screws. So these two screws on this side come out. There's a couple of screws over here that will need to be removed. I think this one here by my thumb, right in front of my thumb, like right there by my finger, that one. And this one needs to come out. And then this plate should lift right out. So I got my little handy dandy screwdriver, and let's get on our handy dandy notebook. Yeah, that was Blue's Clues. That was something my little sister used to watch. Okay. And I was like, yeah, there we go. Yeah, my little sister, she was born in 98, so she grew up with Blue's Clues. And, yeah, anyway, alright. And once you take this back plate off, this is going to allow you to be able to get better access to all the screws needed. So I'm going to go ahead, we'll pull these out. I think the screws are, actually this doesn't need to come out because this is just holding this piece on. So I don't think that is to come out, actually. That one probably doesn't. Okay. Yeah, because that just holds that back piece, but yeah, we'll take it off, because it's been a while since I've been into this particular model, so I may not remember all the stuff I need to remember, but there we go. Yep, I'm remembering correctly here. just gotta get that out of there. You know, want to make sure that I can get access to the screws easily for the power supply. I'm using a magnetic screwdriver because it's a helper when you are trying to work on electronics. Screws you don't want to be flying around, so it's nice to have that magnetic screwdriver. And a lot of the screwdrivers, this one just has a little tiny magnetic thing that goes inside the tip, and then you put the bit in, and then the bit will be magnetized. Yeah, I got tape on the handle because the handle broke, so I put tape on there to hold the handle together and give myself a good grip. Yeah, it is like extremely filthy in here, guys. Like really filthy. Okay. Now this piece is off, so now we can actually get access to the power supply screws, and we can easily remove this power supply. So there should be there is a screw right down here, another screw down in here, okay, and then you've got a screw here at the top here, right here, and one right there, and then you could take the power supply out. We are going to go ahead and unplug the connectors. There's more wires here that need to be removed here. What I did was I went ahead and unplugged all the wiring. Unplugged that. So I've unplugged all the wiring, and I've took the screws out, and now we are able to go ahead and lift this power supply out. Yeah, the interesting thing is this thing will run off of either 220 for like the UK, or it'll run off of 120 for the US. I am waiting for my new ESR tester, because this thing will test capacitors, it'll test resistors, it'll test diodes. It's a neat little tool, so when it comes in the mail, I'll show you it. But it's got a set of tweezers. It looks like a set of tweezers on one end, but the other end it's got the actual square little box that has digital readouts, and it'll do ohms as well, so I can check for capacitance, I can check the ESR. I had a analog ESR meter, which I loved, and I used that for a long time, and it broke on me the other day, so I'm like, well, great, I need something so I can test ESR, and this thing will test, you know, caps, it'll test resistors, it'll test diodes, resistors. This little thing does it all, basically. So I can't wait to show you guys, because it's not just good for testing caps, it's good for testing other components, which I thought would be really nice. So I got that coming in the mail, and I'm excited about it. So yeah, anyway, we'll get back to this. So we'll put the machine aside. There's tons and tons of dirt and stuff in here. I'm gonna have to get my brush and get all this shit out of here before I even attempt to power it on with the new power supply. But I am gonna show you guys how to remove the regulator out of this. So let's do that, okay? Okay, so one thing you'll want to do is remove the two screws that hold the voltage regulator in place. Take those two screws out, and then you want to desolder the regulator, of course. So you want to desolder the regulator, and you can also remove, you'll have to remove the circuit board from the actual plate here. So there are more screws to take out. There's 4 screws that we got to take out. Okay, so there's a screw right down in here. Look at that, so you get the right angle. I'm on focus. There's a screw right down inside here. You see that? That screw has to come out. This screw has to come out. There's another screw right here. And of course another screw on the back here that has to come out. And you can see it. See that? So we're going to take that out. So let's do that right now. And then that way you can, that way I'll show you guys how to do this. That will basically show you everything you need to know about this model on how to get the regulator out. Because if you have this model, this is how to take it apart. So now there's other Betamax machines that have the same kind of thing, where the circuit board might be mounted to an aluminum plate like what we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and undo. It's hard to see that where that screw is. And then this thing will come out, and then you can unsolder desolder the regulator. The screw is down there somewhere. I'll get it once we lift it up. So basically I'm just showing you guys how to remove the regulator and how to install a new one, and it's pretty easy to do. It's not hard. Like I said, you will need to know how to solder. If you've never soldered before, just start practicing solder. But the key is to make sure you get the solder heated up enough and make sure the solder is flowing really good before you release your soldering iron. You want to have a nice, because if you have what's called a cold solder, you're gonna have issues and it's not gonna work. So if you don't know how to solder and you're practicing, you watch some videos on how to solder, because that will help you and guide you through learning how to solder. And I would learn on, like, say, an old circuit board or something. Learn how to solder on that first before you try to tackle any kind of repair work. The only 2 screws now we gotta take out are the ones for the regulator. I don't really want to do this because this regulator is fresh, but I need to show you guys how to do this, so we're going to do this. But I think what I'll do is get the, once you do this, you can now freely get the circuit board off of the mounting plate, off of the chassis here. Now it's going to be stuck because of there's, you know, heatsink compound on there. But I'm going to actually now have to clean this all up before I re-stick this. But as you can see, you can actually just go ahead and kind of, you're still going to be connected here to one of the other boards here. I would just lay it down over on its side like this, and then you can access all the solder connections. But you can see it's all connected to this piece here. And yes, you could remove these two screws here, and then this circuit board will remove, and then you can just work on the power supply just away from the plate. It'll basically, you'll be able to free this from the mounting plate, and you'll be able to take this power supply wherever you want to work on it, and then put it all back in. Yeah. So I'm gonna have to clean this all up here before reattaching the regulator. Okay, I'm wrong, guys. Not these two screws, just this screw here, and I'm actually going to go ahead and remove it so you guys can see how to get this thing fully disconnected. That way you guys can see how it all gets taken apart, so you guys can easily remove it from this mounting plate. And like I said, take the power supply to whatever room you want to work on it and there we go, guys. Now this is free from there, and I just dropped the screw, so I'll have to find that. There you go. Now the mounting plate is completely removed from the power supply, okay? So now is the time to go ahead and desolder all the pins. The tricky thing is to get all those pins to line back up with the holes. Now that's a little on the tricky side, but you guys can do this. So if I can do it, anybody can do it, right? They don't call me the Betamax man for nothing. Alright. Now you guys know how to remove. So there's different methods on removing solder. They have those desoldering guns. And what they'll do is some of them have like, the guns have like a vacuum attached to it so that it heats the solder up, sucks it out, and does this within a matter of just less than a second, and you've got a really nice desoldered joint. And then there's those little copper braids that you can put the copper onto the solder and remove the solder, and the solder goes on to the copper braid. I don't like those. I'm not a fan of them. Personally, I use the little suction things. I can't remember the name of them, but those little suction pump things, those are pretty cool. You've seen me use them. You press the solenoid down, you press it down, and it stays there, and you put it right up against the joint while you're heating it up, and then hit that button, and it'll suck that solder up into that tube. And I like those things. I use them all the time. And 12 volt vids, he uses them too. So he used to do the copper braid. He used to use the copper braiding to do the desoldering, but he seems to use those now. So I thought, yeah, that's pretty cool. So now he likes them too. Because I like them. I really like them. So, yeah. But anyway, yeah, so that's how you guys can do it. And then, you know, and putting it all back in is, you know, pretty easy to do. Just put the thing back onto it. You just basically take this and remount it. First we have to put it right side up, and then we can take it and you mount it back onto the, let's see how it goes, like this. Yeah, let's put it back on like that, and then you just take this and turn it around like this, and then it just goes down in there, just down in there, just like that. Okay, so pretty simple. Then you put the screws back in, and of course don't forget this thing that we disconnected by just removing that screw there on the bottom there. Just, it was right there, and pretty simple. So that is how you guys can remove the voltage regulator. And wasn't that a fun video? I hope so. Hope you guys enjoyed the video, and sorry I've been gone for a little while, but hey, you know, I had some health issues, so I wasn't able to do videos. So I'm getting a little bit better than I was, but I've been suffering quite a bit with some health issues. So anyway, anybody that's had like chronic depression, and anybody who's had an injury to their body has chronic pain as well, you will understand. But people that have never had that won't understand. But anyway, I'm back, guys. I'm trying to, you know, not let the depression take me down a dark road. Anyway, okay guys, so now I will clean this plate up. Now I will clean this plate up before I put the circuit board back together. And this grease is still good. It's still wet and moist because this is new grease that I put on here, because this was a new old stock regulator. I've had people ask me before. They said, hey, how do you get these regulators? Well, you can get them off eBay, but you got to be careful, because you got to buy regulators that are new old stock, not these counterfeit ones that people are making. And people are selling these homemade crappy counterfeit regulators, and they either work for a very short time or they don't work at all. So I actually had a problem one time where I ordered a regulator and it was a counterfeit. It was not new old stock, and back then I didn't know what to look for. Now I do, but it worked for about 2 minutes and then it went out. And I had a customer, I was working on a customer's SL HF600, I believe it was. Yeah, it was a 600, where the regulator was bad, and the guy went and bought a regulator, and he bought a counterfeit one. He put it in, and he said it came on for like a few seconds, or if I remember right, he put it in and it turned on for a few seconds, and then it went out and it wouldn't turn on anymore. And that's the problem you get with these counterfeit regulators, or these phonies, that these assholes should be shot, because they're ripping you off. They are literally ripping people off. I hate people like that. People that want to rip somebody off, they want to be dishonest. I don't want them selling on eBay. But they get away with it because they just open up a new account. When they get so many complaints, they just open up a new account. And, yeah. Anyway, so there we go, guys. She's all put back together, guys. Very simple. Like, again, you know, it's just that one screw down here that holds this mounting plate on. And, of course, then you've got your little backing plate that you gotta put on, you know, of course. We just take this, put this on. You know, this goes on, and of course, this has to, you know, be installed first before we can actually, there we go, see, and then you put your plate on, and there you go. And you want to, you know, plug in all your connectors and everything. And well, thanks for, you know, watching this video and sticking with us throughout the video. And hopefully, you know, you guys have learned how to, you know, take these power supplies apart, and, you know, you desolder the regulator, put the new one in, resolder it. You know, the tricky thing is getting the pins, all the pins to line up in those little holes if it's a used chip. But if it's a new old stock chip, usually there'll be like a piece of styrofoam that the legs will go through to keep them straight and even, so it's easier to put them into the holes. Yeah, and you also want to make sure that you have the regulator at the right spot, because if you put the regulator and you push it in real close to the circuit board, you will have problems trying to put the screws back into the regulator, because, oh, one of the cats fell. You'll have, he got back up though, and he's okay. Anyway, so like, you'll go to put the screws back in and they won't line up because you've got the regulator in too far. So what I would do is put the regulator in, take the pins on each side and just give them a little twist so that the regulator can't come back out. But put your board back on here and kind of do a dry run and just kind of make sure that, okay, I just need to make sure that the regulator is out just a little bit so that I have the ability to put the screws in. And because if you have the regulator too far in and you do get the screws in, you'll have like your circuit board will bow a little bit, because see, mine's actually bowed just a little bit because I have the regulator in a little bit too far, and I should have just left it out and just pulled the regulator ever so slightly out just a little bit, so it would have, you know, not made a bow on the board. But yeah, so that's what can happen. You can put a strain on the board, and then the board can be susceptible to like cracks and stuff. So, well, that is going to end this video, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.